So if you'd like to learn more about us, we just got a brand new website up and going. We have all of our contact information on that and also our events. So please check that out. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ankita Das. Ankita is the director of Bio-Entrepreneurial.
And we have the Business Consult Competition Club. It's also a student-run group from Carey, and Social Innovation Labs. In addition, to put this entire effort together, we've been working with the JHMI Professional Development Office, the Hopkins Postdoc Association, as well as the Biomedical Careers Initiative Office here at JHMI. And here's I just want to show you a structure of our mentoring program. This is like almost like a model. So we get started here with an information session and a panel discussion on entrepreneurship. And this is going to be followed by 3 key activities. One's going to be workshops on, I don't know how well you can see, but on idea generation and how to come up with business models, as well as how to participate in business plan competitions. In addition, we want to provide monthly entrepreneurial lunches where our mentors have agreed to give a one-on-one session on talking about the entrepreneurial experience. And in addition, we also have an online mentor list, which everybody that signs up today will have access to. So all these activities together throughout the year, hopefully we will help you guys with team building and facilitate participation in startup challenges that are ongoing efforts through various clubs across Hopkins. And then this is like really our long-term goal. Hopefully some of you guys will take this to the next level and apply for space and incubators that are right now in the process of happening around here. And some of you might be able to do a startup launch from this. So to get involved in the mentoring program, here's our website. And this is a snapshot from the website. If you get on our website, you'll see there's this link about us. And if you click on it, a menu comes up programs, and that's where we're going to include all the information on entrepreneurship, the mentoring program. And right now, we're also recruiting some team members and program manager for the mentoring program. So I would like to end with acknowledgments. I really want to acknowledge everybody that's helped me, my entire HBN team, and we're going to have people come up at the end, and our partners, as I mentioned. We also have some corporate sponsors, as well as the JHU Alumni Association. In addition, to really help me get started on this program, I have some faculty advisors, Dr. Donna Vogel, who is director of the JHMI PDO, Dr. Jim Liu from Carey, as well as Dr. Dave Greenwald and Sam Hopkins from Carey Business School. With that, I would like to end, and if you guys have any questions, you can either do it now or later. So thank you, everybody.
All right. So I'm Tom from the Innovation Factory. I'm one of the managing directors. I don't know, I sort of feel like an old soul when it comes to entrepreneurship here at Carey. I'm sure Kunal feels the same way. We've been doing this for a few years. And I would just say in the last year or so, there's just been an explosion of what entrepreneurship has been at Hopkins. Some of that can be attributed to Christy Weisfeld, who's sort of the right-hand woman to President Daniels. She's been very involved. She's actually opening a Ringos building, which is a couple blocks away, which will be a co-working space built through Fast Forward. So yeah, it's really exciting to see the partnership that we can build through SIL, HBN, and some of the other groups here. So let me get into it. So about us. So Innovation Factory, this is our mission. So we are a collaborative student-led organization with the mission to foster an entrepreneurial spirit throughout the Johns Hopkins community by facilitating access to learning, networking, and investment opportunities. And essentially what we do is we believe that connecting students, alumni, faculty, and friends from Hopkins' 9 schools, we can help grow this sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And so what we do, sort of the structure of the group is we sort of have presidents at each of the schools. I think right now we have presidents at 6 of the different schools. And then each school has sort of their different leadership group. And then at Carey, which is sort of the managing school, we have other officers such as director of community, director of coding, all these different types of things. So that's really the structure of the group. So these are our guiding principles. So the first one is creativity, invention, and ingenuity live here. And so the real idea here is that there's no crazy ideas, either too big or too small. So when we work with different startups, it doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter if the idea is a fragrance company, which is one of the companies that came through our organization, or whether it's a crazy healthcare company. The next one is be proactive, be adaptive. So continuously soliciting feedback and brainstorming with your team. So the idea of embracing ambiguity in order to sort of grow as a leader. Act with integrity and good judgment. So if you do so, this is sort of near and dear to my heart. We can have our faculty advisors give us sort of a pat on the back and really support us. And the last one is be inclusive, never exclusive. Collaborate with other organizations within Hopkins and outside of Hopkins. So we've done this in a number of different ways, which I'll speak to in a bit. But when I talk about outside of Hopkins, there's some really great organizations out there. One would be Tech Breakfast. So they host breakfasts, I think about once every month, and essentially have startups come in. You get to pitch. They have potential partners there. So this is how we do it. So essentially, it starts with the great ideas. It starts with the great team. And so these four bubbles is sort of what we help with. So we help with your pitch. We help connect you. So since we have sort of arms in different schools, we can sort of create multidisciplinary teams for when you need specific skills. So we help and develop you. And so part of this is in collaboration with Carey has a consulting team that we sort of work with to grow some of these ideas. And then sort of build you up to be market ready, and then finally investor ready. So when I say by investor ready, we put on a series of different events to where you can actually get funding through investors in the community. And so that's what the big dollar sign is up there. So events. So I'll talk about some of our past events and some of our future events. Recently, we've had a pretty good start to the year. The first one we had was an event called the Innovation Jam, which we had a workshop that taught multiple different teams, startups, and students about the business canvas model and lean startup methodology. If you guys haven't heard of it, you guys should look into it. It's quite great. Cool. And then I don't know if any of you guys attended the Innovation Factory Summit event. It was at the end of September, and that was followed by a mosh pit event, which was essentially a pitch competition. So through the summit, we sold 500 plus tickets, and this was to industry, faculty, alumni, and of course students. We had 50 plus speakers, and this sort of ran the gamut. It was Ann Koslow from Sophie's Crepes. We had speakers from different healthcare organizations, different investors. We had a community outreach panel, and we also had 2 TED Fellows come and speak. Some of those were actually Hopkins alums, which is really great. And then with the mosh pit, we actually had 21 startups come and pitch, and we had 3 different tracks. One of the tracks was social innovation, one track was healthcare, and one track was general. So essentially the way that this worked, it was a 6-minute pitch with a Q&A, but the Q&A came specifically from investors that were in the room. So in each of the rooms we had about 5 to 6 investors, which made up this 35 plus year. So let's talk about some of our future events. So last year we did this as well. We had these bi-weekly startup lunches, both in DC and Baltimore. And some of the speakers we had here were, we had the CTO of AOL.com, the managing director of ETC, which is a co-working space, the president of Betamore, which is also a co-working and incubator space come here. So it's a really great way for them to tell their story about how they've sort of been successful. And then it's sort of an open discussion about either your startup idea, any questions you're having with growing your business. So in December through February, there's the BCIC competition. And last year, this was a huge success. Essentially what it is students acting as venture capitalists for startups that come in, and then those students are judged by investors. So through there, serendipitously, one of the startups that pitched actually got an investor who raised, that the startup ended up raising about $200,000 through that investor. It's pretty great. So Entrepreneurship Week, so last year we partnered with MEP, which is a student group out of the School of Medicine, and BME Edge, which is a biomedical engineering group. So we put an Entrepreneurship Week where we, again, had a pitch, we had a bunch of panels, and some really great workshops, specifically targeted towards health and medical. Also in April, we had a startup day, and so this was essentially startups that were farther along, that were looking to essentially promote their startup, but then also hire interns or potential employers. So I know there's at least 2 people that went to this and actually got jobs out of it. And then we have this crazy idea coming up. We're not sure if we're going to pull it off, but it's called Innovation Takes Flight, and I'll just give you a brief description of what it is. So we plan on partnering with NetJets, which is a private jet company, and then getting different CEOs and execs from the Bay Area to come on this flight paid for by NetJets to fly to Hopkins. And then on the flight, we're going to have basically a prompt for these executives on how to solve the growing education problem with debt. So we'll see if we pull it off. It's a big challenge, but we're going to try at least. So how do you get involved? So these are some of our open positions: Director of App Development, Director of Alumni Relations, Director of Faculty Engagement, and then you can see the other 2 here. And if you're looking for us, here's how you can find us. Facebook is probably the best way to reach us. We do also have a website that we keep pretty active, and you can see Twitter and our email. Thank you. Any questions? Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Alright, so there's going to be you guys should think of questions at the end for these presenters. They have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship, and I actually had a question for Tom, but he walked away, but I'll put it up for later. So our next presenter is going to be Preston from the Hopkins Business Competition Club.
Great. My name is Brent Schneider, and this is Freshman Broderick, and we are co-presidents of the Business Competition Club based out of Carey. This is just an image of back in spring. There was a case competition down in Wake Forest for biotech, and Carey actually won first place, which was a really exciting thing for the business school. Kind of put its name out there as kind of a leader in the case competition world. Very early on in our starting, so we're first-year students, and we really saw this need to kind of bring people together within the business school, because you have finance clubs, you have kind of entrepreneur clubs, you have biotech clubs, and they all do these case competitions, but there's not a centralized platform for competitions across the school. And Preston was like, hey, this kind of seems like there's a need across the whole Hopkins University system, where there seems to be tons of very intelligent, competitive people. Why don't we start a club that kind of brings them all together? And that's what we're shooting for. So our mission, we're driven off of collaboration, like I mentioned. We have collaboration across Carey, but we also have collaboration across, the School of Medicine, School of Engineering, across all the schools in the university system. And also we're going to try and break into the industry. A lot of these competitions you gain exposure to, industry leadings within, life science, pharmaceutical, as well as the consulting world. Experience allows students and non-students from the Hopkins system to basically participate in the platform that allows them to apply their knowledge that they learn in the classroom to real-world problems. A lot of these problems really are issues perplexing, whether it's executives at big enterprises, some of the things that they're trying to deal with. so it has real world application. And the exposure, like I said, you're able to expand your network, you're able to meet top executives, you're able to meet with people from consulting firms, other working professionals. It's a good way to put your fingers out there and gain exposure. And lastly, what we really like is that it gives advice. One of our biggest thing is, example, we helped with setting up the Holt Prize, developing teams. I think we ended up forming 16 teams for the competition, and we're planning on bringing some of the past Holt Prize contestants that were in it last year come and speak to the current teams this year to kind of say, this is what you should do, give them some advice for what worked well and what didn't work so well. And also we can try and bring in some industry experts to also give some advice.
Yeah, so the Holt Prize is one of the bigger business-focused competitions. Basically, the crowd here might be a little bit more interested in some biotech competitions that are coming up. So I just wanted to highlight a few that might appeal to the crowd here, that people at Carey are hoping to send teams to. And the main idea behind all these is you want multidisciplinary teams. So we're hoping that we can kind of foster this community where we have access to some of the people in this room, and then you have access to us over at Carey as well. So the first one to show you is called One Start. This is a startup competition. The winner will receive $150,000 in funding and free lab space for the business. This has only been held 1 year so far. They had a winner last year, and one of the things that they like to pitch for their competition is that not only does the winner get access to these sponsors, but they had over 70 other startups that continue to work with the companies involved there. So you see access to really some of the top names in medicine and also consulting there. The application deadline for this is December 1st, 2014, so coming up rather soon. The next one, Kellogg School of Management holds a competition every year. This year we are actually invited. This is an invite-only competition. It does require 2 MBA students, but other than that, it's open to students from across the university. So this one is just a simple case competition. Typically, in these, you're presented with some type of business problem, whether they want to scale up, they're having problems with operating efficiencies, and you're usually given the case 24 to 48 hours beforehand. You have that time to develop a pitch deck, and you present that to a panel of judges, and then you have to defend your solution as well. Sponsors for this, Kellogg obviously, and then AbbVie as well. And application deadline, again, coming up December 5th. The final one, this one has been marketing for a little while, so you may have heard of it, the Neuro Startup Challenge. No specific kind of award to the winner. It's really based on how thorough the company that is developed from it is. So, but you do have instant access to seed funding opportunities. What this competition does is has a list of NIH patents that were developed in different NIH labs, all kind of focusing around neuroscience. And some of them are MRI applications, some of them are new drug applications, so on and so forth. They have very strict rules regarding the team makeup. So you need to have one person for business, one person in medicine, biotech, etc. It kind of goes down the line. This is a very big challenge. I believe this is the first year that they've done this, but it looks like a pretty exciting opportunity for Hopkins to get involved in. Again, application deadline coming up. So finally, we want people to stay in touch with us. As Brent mentioned, we don't always have access to each other across the schools. It's rather fragmented. We have a member sign-up sheet. This is a very simple Google spreadsheet that anyone can go on, put their name, contact information, their interests, their background, industry expertise, etc. And then that way you can reach out to other people from throughout the university and just contact them. If you think someone matches up with what your ideas are, then feel free to reach out to them. And we want to get this out to everyone at the School of Medicine. We hope to do the same with the School of Engineering, School of Education, Homewood. We have some Carey students signed up there so far, and a few from other schools, but right now it's mainly focused on Carey, so hopefully you guys can change that. And we will be making a Facebook page soon, because that seems to be the optimal situation. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask it.
my question is for the first competition that you mentioned, one prize. One star, yes. How does one get involved? So if any of us in this room is interested in potentially competing for this, and so are you guys going to help us? What's the process for that? Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I don't know the details. The details are very well laid out on their website, but basically you need to create a team of, I believe this one is a minimum of 3 people. And essentially, where we come in is if you do sign up, let me just put that last thing. If you go onto that spreadsheet and you find people with similar industry background, Brent here has a biotech background. I worked in clinical research, so if either of those things, you'll see our name on there, and that, shoot us an email, give us a call, and just say, hey, can we put a team together? It was successful for the whole province when we did this in terms of putting teams together, but really for all the competitions, it's pretty simple to apply. You just need to show that you have members, a multidisciplinary team, and that you're all committed to actually competing in the prize. And you're generally accepted, especially when you're coming from a school such as Hopkins.
But I guess my question is, do you have to have your own idea to compete? Like for the Neuro Challenge, there's already, I know there are patents in,
Right.
In the process of being reviewed and stuff, so you just have to give your expertise there. What about this one? Do you have to have your own idea?
For the One Star, it is your own idea. So it's focused, I believe, this year on it's a simple improving patient care. So it can be, I know it says on their website, it could be device, it can be medicine, application, software. It kind of runs the gamut. But yeah, it is your own idea for that one.
Okay, and so you guys are sort of managing the team forming activity.
We hope to kind of bring people together so they don't have to gather up just in their, sort of small,
Okay.
I'm not saying everyone has small groups of friends here, but, within their little cohort and develop a team that way.
Yeah, and we just also want to bring, awareness to the schools across the system. I mean, again, let alone finding a group member or an event to go to can be challenging, so we're just trying to make that as easy as possible for everybody.
Yeah, again, sorry, that same competition in the One Star, is there a certain stage, or can it just be like 3 students getting together and applying?
For that one, it can be any stage. It can be idea, or it can be a startup already at this point. I don't know. You'd have to go on the website to find, at what level do they stop accepting, sort of startup idea. But yeah, it's different stages in terms of concept.
All right.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, so our last presenter this evening is going to be Kunal for the Social Innovation Labs.
So I'll talk a little bit about the Social Innovation Lab. The Social Innovation Lab has been around since 2011. So for the past few years, I've been the director and really kind of building the lab into an ideal incubator for any student, faculty member here at Hopkins who has, whether it's an idea, discovery, a concept, maybe you already started an organization, maybe you already incorporated, something that will allow you to take a nascent idea or concept and turn it into something that has a tangible social impact, but a sustainable business model behind it. And so a lot of people don't know what social entrepreneurship is. So for us, it's really, we want people to join our incubator who are working on solving a significant social problem, right? So I think Kim Kardashian created an app earlier this year that's raised hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. If you want to do that, that's great, make a lot of money, but you're probably not the right fit for us. For us, you can make money. If you want to make money, you want it to be sustainable. You've really got to be solving a real problem that affects people. And essentially, we help you do that. And so a lot of, quick example. So Tom's is one of the things that people know about the most, right? So Maybe you've heard of Toms. Right, so buy a shoe, pair of shoes goes to someone who doesn't have a pair of shoes. So they're really kind of one of the first models that really show that you can make money and have an impact at the same time. And so today, they've donated over 12 million shoes. And their company is actually just valuated at over $625 million. So they've really shown that you can actually do both of these things at the same time. And you probably do better as a business if you are having a social mission as a part of what you're doing. This is actually one of my favorites, the Aravind Eye Hospital. Have any of you heard of the Aravind Eye Hospital? So in India, there are 10 million people who have cataracts. And so if you have cataracts, you don't have the surgery, you're going to go blind at some point. And this is literally a 10-minute surgery. The equipment's in India, the surgeons are there, the procedures are there. But there are 10 million people who are going to go blind because they don't have access to these equipment, to the surgeries. And so I think 30 years ago, there was an ophthalmologist in India who said, I'm tired of this. And so he just retired. He said, I'm going to start a hospital where anyone who comes here, we're going to treat them, no matter what, no matter how much it costs. And so this is higher in terms of efficacy, in terms of efficiency, in terms of quality, has higher rankings than a lot of hospitals actually here in the US or in Europe. And so they have a sliding scale model. If you can't pay for a cataract surgery, if you can't pay for an eye procedure, you don't pay. If you can pay, maybe you pay a little bit more. And so because they have access to so many more people, they're actually completely sustainable on their own. And so one of the things that they've seen is that, for example, when they first started, a box of sutures cost $200. And so how can they do a surgery for 50 rupees if the suture they need at the end of that surgery costs $200? And so they started their own manufacturing facility to build intraocular lenses, sutures, that they can provide at cost to patients within the system. And so that company alone makes $550 million in revenue a year. And today they've done over 4 million cataract surgeries. And they're completely sustainable on their own, which is really amazing. I'm sure all of you have heard of the American Red Cross. Let me ask a question. How many of you know, or I guess do you know, where the Red Cross makes most of its money? Where does most of the Red Cross revenue come from? Anybody know?
Donations.
So that's what a lot of people guess, right? Especially, for Hurricane Katrina and all these things, they collect a lot of donations. Actually, they bring in revenue of $3.9 billion every year. That's including donations. But around $2.5 billion of that is from selling blood products and blood to hospitals for transfusions for different things. So they're actually an earned revenue. They're a nonprofit, but they make earned revenue from selling these blood products. And that sustains their mission. So that they're actually an ideal social enterprise, one that can actually make money and use that to have a real social impact. So just the past year alone, they've had an impact on over 150 million lives around the world. And so really when we were built because at Hopkins, there are ideas, there's talent, there's a lot of discoveries that can have an impact on people. But for the last 30 years, it's just been sitting in labs. It's been sitting in people's heads. And it hasn't been able to get out, not only to the people in Baltimore, who actually, there's great need for a lot of things that are being developed in Hopkins, but also around the world. And so we really see ourselves as facilitating getting things out of here and in the hands of people who really need them in a sustainable way. And here's our model. We take disruptive technologies, we put them in the hands of young innovators like yourselves, and we help you develop mission-driving business models that allow you to sustain your mission. And so I'm going to give you an example here of Here's Project. It is an awesome example. And so they came to us literally with an idea. So Carey is a resident who had a year off for research, and Frank is her faculty mentor. And so they do a lot of hearing research. And so what they found out is that 80% of older adults need hearing aids. And this is what it takes to get a hearing aid in Maryland. So that's about $5,000 in 4 to 6 months to get a simple hearing aid. And 80% of older adults need a hearing aid. And I think it's a problem in Maryland and in many states is that these aren't Medicare or Medicaid reimbursable. So for many people in Baltimore, where 25% of our population is in poverty, that might be the third highest cost that you spend in your entire lifetime. Maybe the third highest purchase you spend in your lifetime, which isn't going to happen. And so a lot of people have these hearing issues. This leads to dementia, to inability to communicate. You can't hold down a job. You can't have a real family. A number of different problems. And so what they did is they've developed a way in a hearing amplifier. This actually does a lot of the same things a hearing aid would do, but they can sell for around $125. And so in 1 hour, they'll knock on your door in Baltimore, they'll fit one of these things on you, they'll give you the education and counseling to use it, and you pay whatever you can. So on average, it turns out to be $125, but if you can't pay, you don't pay. And if you can't pay, maybe you pay $150. And so it's totally sustainable on its own, but it's having a real impact here in Baltimore, and soon to be around the rest of the United States. And so this is what they think they can do this year. It's helped 600 people here in Baltimore. And so over the past 3 years, we've incubated 33 companies. So essentially, if you come in, you can come in at any stage. You can have an idea, you can have a concept, you can have an actual company, you can have revenue already. It doesn't really matter. You can have thought of the idea 2 days ago. And so we have an application process every fall. So essentially, if you're chosen, we take you through a year-long process. So each week you go through fundamental kind of business workshops. So what is lead startup principles, how do you incorporate it, what are relevant business models for what you're doing, all the way to how do you pitch to an investor, how do you write a business plan, what's there to be non-dilutive and dilutive funding, all these sorts of things. So essentially we want to give you everything in that process, take you from the nascent idea or concept all the way to that tangible social impact and a business that's fully sustainable. And so to do that, we provide training. So we have weekly training and workshops. Every Saturday we do office hours. So we bring an entrepreneur, an investor, someone in Baltimore who knows their stuff, who's been there, who's done that. And our team spend time with them every Saturday, asking them whatever they want to ask. And so every team also is provided with a mentor that takes them through the entire year and also go beyond. And then we also provide pro bono services. So there's design services, accounting, legal. So essentially, we want to provide everything that you would need to make a successful business. We want to give that to you and help you. And we won't take anything from you. We don't take equity. We give you a little bit of seed funding at the beginning, but we don't take anything from you. No equity. We don't take any royalties after you're successful and make $1 billion. We're really here to help you guys build companies that can be impactful. And so companies that have come in so far have been across the board. They've been nonprofits, they've been for-profits, they've been something in between. They've been across a number of different fields. And so these are kind of some of our partners here in Baltimore. The Center for Bioengineering, Innovation Design, MICA, just like the Innovation Factory, a lot of these other organizations really strive to bring all the different talent and expertise together. So whether it's Carey, the School of Medicine, the School of Public Health, our most successful teams are ones that have people from all those places. And just recently, I spent a week in Italy this summer and just got back from a trip to China. So we're developing global partnerships around the world. So if your company is ready to get to that stage, we have partners in place to help you do that, which I think is really, really exciting. And we're also, the other thing that we're working on now is directing innovation. And so what we've seen is a lot of people come into our lab. They might say, well, I see this is a problem, or like, this has touched me. And that's great, and a lot of those people are really successful. But in Baltimore and in our nation, there are a lot of really, really pressing problems. And so we're partnering with Baltimore government, with DC, to identify real specific problems that these cities and governments are having. And we put people and process and money around them to solve these challenges. And so we're going to start this upcoming summer. So keep a lookout for that. In terms of getting involved, there's a couple different ways. So every fall, we do a full application process. So that's one way. After we've done that, there's still a number of ways. So we just accepted 10 teams into our incubator. A lot of those are one-person, two-person teams. A lot of them are straight from the School of Medicine. They have great technologies. They know a lot about science, but they don't know about business. They don't know about how to implement these technologies. They don't know about the public health policy issues that go along with it. And so if you want to join a team, that's definitely another way to be a part of it. We're also going to start doing office hours every week here at Homewood, as well as the School of Medicine. So even if it's just, hey, I've got this Kim Kardashian app, and I want to figure out what to do with it, feel free to come by. And those will be well publicized. We'll make sure they come through HPN as well. And so that, that's free. We just want to help people here in Baltimore and here at Hopkins do good things. And the biggest thing, we say we're an incubator. We say that we want to grow companies and build companies. The big thing is we want to build people. We want to build a really strong tribe of people who have a lot of capabilities, who have a lot of great experience. Even if your company fails, you're going to be a better person for that. And we want you guys to be the game changers that, stay here in Baltimore or go around the world and continue to have an impact. So if you have any questions, I would take them now or afterwards. Please feel free to come and talk to me. Thank you.
So for your directing innovation initiative, so from our crowd, if anybody wants to get involved, how frequently are you taking applications? Is it always like on a rolling basis, or what's your process on that?
Sure. So every fall we do traditional applications for our incubator to be a part of that incubator process where you get funding, mentorship, training, all the pro bono services. The directing innovation is something that we've had in the pipeline for a long time, but are now getting kind of the mayor's office and all these other folks kind of involved. So that's something we're going to start our pilot this June, and probably do every year after that.
Okay. So it'll be like an internship opportunity almost for students.
Not necessarily. I mean, essentially, it will be, here's a big problem facing Baltimore or facing our country, and if you're interested and have an idea, you'll be the team. And so we'll provide you funding, mentorship, all the things. If you want to build a company, we'll help you in every way to do that.
Okay.
Sure.
Do you have individuals to help with filing the 503C status?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're a nonprofit or for-profit, whatever, something in between, a B Corp, we'll help you with whether it's filing your corporation papers, whether it's getting an EIN number for tax purposes, whether it's writing a business plan. We take you every step of the way. Absolutely. All right, thank you.
All right, let's thank you, Kunal. Okay, so now we get on with our next part of the event for today, which is we have a little panel discussion. We put together a panel of 5 members here, and I would like for panelists to come up here and introduce themselves, and we'll get started. And I really encourage all of you, because it's going to be, I have some prompts to get started, but I really encourage you guys to make it a very interactive session and ask questions along the way. And we'll also have, we're running a little late, but we'll probably have 10-15 minutes at the end for you guys to do networking and get to know the panelists. And they're all entrepreneurs or have been involved in working on entrepreneurial efforts around the area. So I really hope that you guys take advantage of this panel that we have up here. So I would like to invite the panelists. We're going to get started, and I'd like to thank everybody for being here. And I'm going to start with a prompt, and then we'll follow the discussion. So first is, I'd like for you guys to just introduce yourselves very briefly about, just give us a background about what you guys do and how you guys are involved in entrepreneurship, starting with Dr. Langer.
Hi, I'm Lynn Johnson-Langer, and I'm in the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences in the Center for Biotech Education. I'm also on the board of directors of TEDCO, the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, which is was started by the state of Maryland. It is the intention of TEDCO is to support and fund early startups and entrepreneurship in the technology arena. So there's lots of different ways you can get money from the state of Maryland. So if you want to start a company, you really want to look at tedco.org on the website. And then just briefly, I'm responsible for the graduate programs. We're based out of the biology department, where the Carey School comes in strong with the business. We come in strong leading with the science, and then we offer a master's in biotech enterprise and entrepreneurship, where students take courses in creating a biotech enterprise, funding a new venture, management, leadership, all kinds of ways to help entrepreneurs start and successfully run companies.
Great, so my name is Dave Greenwald. My background is I have a PhD in genetics from Tufts University. I co-founded the Tufts Biomedical Business Club. While I was doing my PhD, I started a company called Relay Technology Management, which was funded by Nature Publishing Group, raised $2 million, and then we built the team, launched a product, and eventually sold that company. So I've been through the funding and acquisition roller coaster, if you will. When that company was acquired, I moved to Baltimore about 2 years ago. I've been teaching at the Carey Business School, teaching entrepreneurial finance and corporate finance, and I'm also the Carey glad to be here and happy to answer any questions anybody has about raising capital, building a team, and eventually, what it's like after you sell a company.
I was a graduate student here at Hopkins for far too long, as many of you may sympathize. The Department of Biomedical Engineering. I also started a company, Live Assay, with a partner. There I learned to create a pipeline. We started our production in India, and we sold biomedical products to universities here in the States. Since I've left the operations of that, maintained ownership, and started consulting, or also taking ownership. One of the beauties of not raising financing is you don't get to blow up quite as quickly, but I get to maintain ownership and play with ownership issues with a lot more flexibility. So I can't answer capital raising, but I can definitely answer legal and ownership issues much better. But anyway, now I'm running a consulting business where we help companies expand their pipelines internationally, defense technology related companies. Been doing that, government relations, been helping just as trying to build community in the Baltimore and Washington DC area as kind of a hobby.
Great. So my name is JJ Reedy. I'm a little young on this panel. I'm a second year GMBA currently, and I'm a product of the Innovation Factory and currently in Kunal's Social Innovation Lab. So I'm also one of the presidents of at the Carey Business School, the hub for Innovation Factory, and again, as Tom said, we're kind of working on really breaking down those barriers, those silos that Hopkins has, and I'm sure you're all aware of, to really spur collaboration. So currently my project that's at SIL, it's called the Urban Pastoral Collective. And I have a team of three one is from Micah, and one is a PhD in biology from USC. And we're here to redefine farming in the urban sense. So my team is going to design, construct, and operate a state-of-the-art aquaponic greenhouse in the heart of Baltimore. And we'll be able to feed about 16,000 families a year, producing over 200 tons of produce. So we're currently designing that and raising funding, looking for property, and we believe we can feed the city of Baltimore and the city of Baltimore. And I'm happy to answer any questions about Carey or what it's like making a lot of mistakes as a young entrepreneur. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Kunal. I just spoke with you a second ago.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, I've been the director of the Social Innovation Lab. I hired a full-time director in May, so I took myself out of a job, but it gives me more time to work on my PhD, which is why I had to cross out the doctor. I haven't earned that yet, hopefully soon. Before I came here to Hopkins, I started a couple companies in tech and biotech, and I kind of like to hear to Hopkins afterwards.
All right, so I've asked if anybody has any questions before I start my next prompt. Do you guys have any questions for the panelists? And if not, okay, we have a really quiet audience here. So as you heard, it's a very diverse crowd here, people associated with entrepreneurship. One of the things I'd like to, they've all really offered to give you guys advice and mentoring help, but I like to everybody to just say briefly, like what general advice for, I think many of us in this room are interested in entrepreneurship, some of us are sure that we want to go into it, some of us are thinking about it, but one really quick advice you guys would like to give to aspiring entrepreneurs, like maybe in like a sentence or two, if you can just say a few words.
I would say be adaptable. In fact, we have some research that shows the successful entrepreneurs or successful leaders of biopharmaceutical companies were adaptable. You might start as a scientist, work in a lab, maybe become a lab chief, work your way up, but that's very different than starting a company and then growing the company and then running the company. So, realize that you're going to have to change your stripes a lot. So, be adaptable.
Yeah, I would even build on that and say, take advantage of the time that you have at Hopkins. You're earning a degree and you have time and the sort of bandwidth to make mistakes, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, I can tell you that I ran my company for about 2 years, the last 2 years of my PhD. And during that time, we went through like 2 to 3 different business models. And once we got it right, we got traction and it hit. But if I wasn't getting my PhD, and if I was doing that full time, it never would have worked. So the fact that you are getting your degree at Hopkins, if that's what you're doing, gives you an opportunity to sort of do something on the side and figure out how it works. And that just takes time. So you might as well do that when you have the flexibility to do so. It's really difficult to do that if you're also trying to figure out how the business works and bring in revenue at the same time or raise money. It's pretty hard.
Absolutely. Again, since this is an engineering crowd, suggest learning lean startup principles. Eric Rice. We tend to want to overbuild things, create a perfect business before you start even trying at it. Don't be afraid, as you're saying, adapt it. If you have a perfect product, by the time you create a perfect product, it's already too late. Your competition's moved in, you've lost the opportunity. Get started, get moving.
Yeah, I would say something. I would just say start now. What are you waiting for? And echo, being at school is a great time to start. Everyone has excuses. Oh, I'll start next year when I am this or when I have this. You'll never have the optimal time to start a business. And in reality, most of us who start, I'm sure more experienced entrepreneurs would say, none of us have any idea what the hell we're doing when we start. And the only way you're going to learn is to get your feet wet and make mistakes. So just jump in there and stop waiting.
Yeah, I'll echo that. You don't know what you don't know. I think that's the biggest thing as a young entrepreneur when you first start is that you just don't know any of the number of things that are going to be thrown at you that you're going to figure out. So the biggest thing I think is not only start fast and start early and be able to adapt, but find really, really good mentors. Find people like these people who have already done it before and can help you with every part of that process.
And get education and training whenever you can, whether it's an evening like tonight or workshop or a course or a full program. Education never hurts.
But on the other hand, it's not like we know everything. It's not like I suddenly arrived at knowing how to run. I don't know how. I make huge mistakes, terrible mistakes.
Those are the best mentors.
You never arrive at suddenly knowing how to have a business run successfully. You can have one business run successfully, the next one will fail miserably. You can run 3 businesses successfully, the 4th one will fail miserably. You learn the process. Hopefully, I have gone through the process in my graduate career when I was running my own business of paying cash for my house, $200,000 cash, and also being so cash poor that I couldn't pay for food. Hopefully I've narrowed down the poor judgment and the back and forth there, but it's kind of a wide expanse, and I'm a little bit used to that because my family comes from entrepreneurship. So we've gone from dirt poor to really rich to dirt poor again to really rich again. But it's kind of you live and you learn.
I don't think anybody's born a perfect entrepreneur or scientist or business person. I think you learn it along the way. And I think a really good entrepreneur is somebody who learns it along the way. I think that's just the best way to sum it up.
Okay, so
I guess I have a question for Dr. Greenwald. I'm just wondering about your time balance while you're working on a PhD, how much time you can actually allocate towards
Yeah, it was miserable.
a company. so you just try not to detract from your...
Yeah, and my PI, I'm pretty sure he's not in here, but he was pretty pissed off and he wasn't happy. It was tough. It was like start a gel, go run to a meeting, come back. It was like 24/7. You have, and that's another thing. I think you really have to like what you're doing. If it doesn't really motivate you, it's going to be tough to put in the amount of time and effort. But yeah, it was. I'd come in a suit, change into like lab clothes, go for a lunch meeting, come back. It was long days for many years.
And where did you have a similar mentorship infrastructure for you at Tufts?
I did, yeah. That was the nice thing, and I love Baltimore, but Boston, Cambridge had an awesome sort of setup where you can't throw a stone down the street and not hit like 2 biotech CEOs and a farm exec. So really condensed network of people, and I was very fortunate. I agree with whomever said to kind of get the mentors, because we we had actually 2 different advisory boards. My company had a technology advisory board and a business advisory board. They were lucky enough to have a really experienced biotech VC on our board of directors. So I'm very much of the mindset of surrounding yourself with people who've done it before, who, as you're making a mistake, can say, okay, hold on, don't quite do that yet. Good thought, but this is why you shouldn't do that. So I definitely recommend, surrounding yourself with people like that if you can.
And sorry to tack on to that, but did your business overlap at all with your research you're doing in lab, or did you dream up something totally distinct?
It was totally distinct. Yeah, I was doing gene therapy for ophthalmology for my PhD, so that was like a very science-specific thing. And then my company was actually competitive intelligence for biotech and pharma, so it was actually more of a software analytics company. So it had applicability, and actually what I did was I ended up validating it using the research that I knew. So, but it was separate. It wasn't like I commercialized the stuff that I was doing my thesis on. Although I definitely recommend that because you probably will know the most about that science at the end of your PhD. You're kind of primed to try to translate that science. Like I think that's the ideal model. It's like I'm working on something for my PhD, now I want to go raise money for it. Like that's a good model. I like that. Yeah.
So do you think then that the idea of entrepreneurship should be important for choosing scientific mentor, thesis lab?
As personal preference. Yeah, really, it's a good question. It depends what what your goals are. I mean, I went into my PhD wanting to be entrepreneurial, and so I didn't choose my PI because I thought he would help from an entrepreneur perspective. I chose him because, or I hope he chose me because he was doing really translational research. Like I just knew I didn't want to be studying like protein interactions. So the fact that he was like, I'm trying to develop a drug, I was like, that's great. That's what I want to learn.
On my side, my PI was pretty hands-off, so the fact that I wasn't at lab necessarily wasn't noticed. So that helps.
So I know that with the great reward comes great risk. I was wondering if you guys would talk a little bit about some of the bigger risks that you've taken and looking back on it, sort of how you managed it and whether you think it was a good idea or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've lost everything and gotten everything back and a few times. I mean, losing everything, not a good idea. With getting a lot of money, good idea. I mean, my mistakes at the beginning were actually trusting other people. Trusting other people more than myself, thinking that someone. And I know that sounds terrible, but I maintain more ownership now than and maybe that inhibits growth. I trust people to do their jobs more. I delegate a lot more. That's not hard because you can only do so much in a day. So if you try to maintain that, that's crazy. You're never going to get anywhere. But I maintain legal and administrative control quite well. And I learned that contractually after a few.
I'm wondering if there's a better way to organically go about looking for someone who we, I think, would believe in our project and who would be a good person to be on our scientific or our business board.
I guess adding on to Nick, will any of you be CEO of your own company, or were you like part of the team that actively went out to look for a CEO? And that's a question that we are currently struggling right now. And we're wondering that we've decided to take a step back and say we can find someone for ourselves first, or we decide it's a very important decision, but we're wondering what thoughts do you have on that?
I think that the Moralist and BHI are 2 excellent resources. The way I did it in Boston was just hardcore networking. It was like honestly going to 7 events like this at MIT, Tufts, and Harvard, and BU, like all the time, and just constantly. And you end up seeing a lot of the same people, and you become an evangelist for your company, and you pitch at as many events as possible, and you just kind of get your name out there, and before you know it, somebody says, that's really interesting, I know somebody in that space who you should talk to, and that's that's how it happened for us. We didn't have the, no offense, the luxury of like a Merle list, but I think that's great. I totally think you should pursue both avenues. In terms of, and I was also kind of co-founder and CEO, and so that versus bringing an external CEO in. I think typically an external CEO gets brought in at the request of investors. So investors kind of say, well, I like the idea, but I want a professional to manage the company. So at this stage, and to be honest with you, like the trade-off, and it's also a chicken and egg situation where it's like, you might have a really exciting idea, but if you want to attract a top talent CEO, like how are you going to compensate that person? Even if they recently sold the company and they're doing well, like they're just not going to typically want to do something without either a really big chunk of equity or being paid. So it's tough. Like you need to kind of build the company to the point where it almost warrants and a professional CEO, by the way, like that. I mean, I think you can get through Series A financing. Like you can get to the point of raising your first capital, and then probably a Series B when it comes into growth. It might be a time, I think, for most companies when an outside CEO might be warranted.
And to not be the doom and gloom guy, but then you got to worry about vesting and divesting schedules. And so make sure you know about that before you start giving the CEO 50% that then disappears.
We'll always have good lawyers.
Yeah.
That's just
Always.
Talk to Facebook.
Yeah, good lawyers and good accountants are unfortunately worth what they charge.
Also, just to throw out another pitch for TEDCO, on Wednesday, day after, what's today, Monday?
Yes.
Day after tomorrow and Wednesday, they have their Entrepreneurial Expo out at BWI. So just go to the TEDCO website and you can see it. It's a pretty exciting, high-charged event.
So I would like to, if
I was going to add,
I'm
just want to
sorry.
add to that I've attended that event as well twice over the last, I guess it's been going on for about 4 years.
This is the third or fourth year, I
Yes.
think, yeah.
And I think it's worth anybody going. I've participated in Bio-Entrepreneur programs myself, and was in the process of starting my own company as well. But I wanted to make a comment about that event, but I actually ran into angel investors that attended that event, and that's good to know for those who are not familiar with that. I mean, it's not as much money, but sometimes it could
Got to start somewhere
start
beyond
somewhere.
family and friends, right?
And actually, usually angel investors they'll last for a long. They really don't want a big return on their investment up front, so might be worth at least checking it out.
I have a question. This has been great, by the way. Really appreciate it. So if you have an idea that's not patentable, or if it's a product or app that's not patentable, I mean, there's a lot of talk about building a team and talking with investors and all that. How
Why is it not patentable?
liberal should you be with
Why is it not patentable?
Why is it not patentable?
Yeah. I mean, is it like a repurposed drug, or is it something more?
Well, I have a couple different ideas.
Okay.
We've seen that for afterwards, but like one would be hypothetically an app.
Okay.
An app's not patentable, I don't think. But
It
then
could be a
also
process or a method. I mean, the other thing
product
is,
maybe
so
it's not.
patentable is great, but there's trade secrets, right? There's also first mover advantage. There's brand. I mean, like there's a lot of ways that you might have something that's not patentable, but if your brand owns a certain market segment, like what Tom's is doing is not patentable, but Nike might want to acquire them. So
And look at all the Tom's knockoffs, but
Exactly.
Tom's is still.
But if you're starting from nothing,
Ask
I'm trying to
GoPro.
build.
GoPro camera, right? They were in a very dense space. They went to a specific niche, and they kept on wondering the entire time, when is Kodak gonna kill us? When is Sony gonna kill us? And they won that market. So I mean, there's a couple things to study, but effectively you need an angle. Whatever one of those angles, you need an angle. Hit a long tail niche. You need to own a trademark or your legal protection isn't necessarily always the best way to try to protect your business.
But just in terms of the
Business
day-to-day,
processes.
like just in terms of networking at an event or, talking,
If you
trying to
can
build a
lose
team.
it by just talking to someone, your business isn't strong enough.
yeah, that's a good point. So there's a big difference. So there's kind of like two levels. One level is you got to be able to discuss your business in non-confidential terms, and that could mean just telling somebody enough to get them interested. And if you're thinking about hiring somebody, you might have them sign a non-disclosure agreement. We did that before we filed any patents. That's a way just to protect the business. Although I think what you said is really important, which is that the expression is that like ideas are cheap, but like execution is everything. So there's a million great ideas out there. It really comes down to like, are you the person who can execute on that idea? So it's something that I think all entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs, myself included, like I don't really want to tell anybody my idea because oh my god, like those kids at MIT are just gonna take it and run, right? Like they won't because they'll forget about it 20 minutes later and they don't really know what I'm talking about. And, like at one level, you've almost got to just be confident enough. And by the way, like no VC is going to sign an NDA, so you have to be like, look, this is what's happening. I'm going to make this happen. I'd love for you to be a part of the the process, but the train's leaving the station. So.
But also some of the things that you were talking about earlier, you can go to these workshops and learn to do pitches, et cetera, so that you can learn to give your succinct elevator statement that sounds really exciting, that you can do very quickly and easily without giving away the store, but just enough to get people excited.
I had a question, just in general. Do you think it's good to do constant searches? So, for example, if there's a idea that one has in mind, to kind of look every week to see.
You said with Google search.
Yeah,
like,
just to kind of
daily,
keep current.
weekly, monthly alert. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I guess the audience has finally asked some questions. Now, I'd like to, thank you all, and it's been a great discussion. I'd like to kind of latch on to what Dr. Langer started. So we have I looked at the RSVPs, and I know we have a group of people, there are postdocs, grad students from all kinds of schools, and I think some undergrads that signed up as well. My point is, so we're hosting this event from HBN, and one thing I want to really bring out is, some of you guys have very specific concerns, but other people, I'd like to know what you guys want to see, because we're starting a mentoring program, and I think it's come across in this panel that mentoring is one of the very key elements of, like for being an entrepreneur, I think for any careers in general. But if you guys would really think through, and all of these people are going to be our mentors on our list, so you guys should think of what you guys are really interested in, and if you have any questions, please like to email like HBN and really tell HBN what we could do to make this a program a really success at all levels, from very beginning, like how do you come up with an idea and other things like that. So during the networking, I guess we could do a little brainstorming, and people could talk with the panelists as well as innovation factory, like Dr. Langer said. The idea was to get some of the incubators groups together so that people that are not really sure on how to proceed can take advantage, if you will, of the services. So really, you guys should really think about this, and I encourage you guys to ask more questions during the networking and really think of what you can get out of it, and tell us as the HBN team also. So that's one thing I wanted to add to this. So.
I just thought of something too. A senior vice president at TEDCO for tech transfer is a Hopkins grad, and he loves to talk to people from Hopkins.
We're going to have more of, as you've seen in my presentation, we're going to have many more panel discussions and workshops, and I'm really trying to, if I know what people are really interested in, trying to bring together speakers that everybody likes to talk about their story, as you've seen, and they have unique stories to share and unique lessons to discuss with you guys. So it would be nice if people can also give me feedback on what they would like to see, and then we can plan the events along the way. But we'll have many opportunities next year to have more speakers that are willing to share their stories. But I think with that, I'd like to kind of close the panel unless somebody else has any questions from the audience. Yes.
So I am an international student here, and I come across a lot of international students who are really interested in entrepreneurship. They do have good ideas, but they don't know how to get forward. And they are very much dependent on visas, so they have to have a job. And if you really have a good idea, you want to really pursue it without sharing that time with anything else. So is there get around that problem, or?
It's a real problem.
We can't give you a visa.
Well, actually, so on that note,
Maybe
actually,
can.
well, one thing we did, because I had a really smart postdoc, who's actually still a very good friend of mine, he's at Dana-Farber now, and he did some consulting work for us on a project, an early project, and we sponsored his H-1B visa in return. Like we paid for like to have the lead, we basically paid to have the lawyers file it, and we were like of record on the H-1B. But that's like, I mean, again, I hear what you're saying, and it's a real problem. I mean, there's other, there's entrepreneurs who want to do stuff in the States, and they came here for their education, and it's a big problem. I mean, it's what Obama is like trying to work on right now. But
Yeah, but if you're on a student visa,
yeah,
being a student, that really
when you're done being a student,
yeah,
we don't want you to stay as an entrepreneur, which is backwards.
seems exactly wrong.
I know I've been talking a lot, but my co-founder from Live Assay is an Indian citizen, so he had that very same problem, and we did a lot of things to all legal to deal with it, but it's a big problem, so you can talk to me afterwards.
So I have a question about how we can take advantage of the microfinancing to raise money online, especially resolving like critical social problems.
Yeah, so we've had I think 3 or 4 teams that raised a significant amount of money through crowdfunding. Not necessarily microfinancing. I think a lot of microfinancing happens in developing countries. But talk to someone who's done it. Talk to someone who's been successful at doing it, because there's definitely money out there. But you want to make sure you're primed at every level to take advantage of it. So you're welcome to talk to me afterwards.
Okay, so if no one else has any questions, let's thank all the panelists, and we're going to